James chapter 3 verses 5 and 6, the tongue. It's really interesting when you consider the New Testament how the different writers who composed it all have a different slant on what is most significant about the ways of God with the ways of humanity. And so Paul, for example, emphasizes Christianity as the law of liberty, the way of liberty, and the strongest dynamic of human life is the dynamic of faith. And by contrast, John emphasizes that the central reality of God is love, and so the life of God in man is characterized by love. And unless you speak that language, so to speak, unless you trade in the currency of love, then you can't enter into the country, right? But what about James? James is completely different again. And his designation, according to early church history, was James the Just. And that really fits him. He was a man of outstanding integrity. He was straight and honest and deliberate. And his whole letter rings with that truth. The idea, the clarity of reality, of truthfulness against the smoke and mirrors, against the hypocrisy and double standards of what we call religion. Phony religion was what really got up James's nose. And so you find him protesting against double standards wherever they come. All that nitpicking that seems to go with religion. If anyone among you seems to be religious and yet can't hold his tongue, that person's religion is vain. It's a waste of time. And that's a characteristic phrase of James. And at the same time, he protests against that wheedling way that we sometimes do of grovelling to rich people. I heard this guy once say, we need some substantial people in the church. And he meant rich people. And what that does is it second classes the poor. And James says really strongly, if you show favoritism, you commit sin. Get out of that one. And then he protests against that sort of que sera, sera type of fatalism, which suggests that we blame God for our own passions and lust. He said, let no one say when tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot tempt to evil, neither does he tempt any man. And James comes against that sort of phony religious excitement. And what that does is it turns the real religion into the enjoyment of listening. You know, whether it's, oh, wasn't he a wonderful speaker? I was so moved by the worship. You know, and that's wonderful to enjoy a great sermon or to enjoy a great time of worship. But if that's all it is enjoyment, if it doesn't transmit into action and reality, then it's just codswallop, just rubbish. He said, be doers of the word and not hearers only. And then he adds a little bit, because you deceive your own soul. Is that interesting? If you get stuck with the enjoyment, you deceive your own soul. And last, he comes against a trust in a correctness of theological doctrine which is somehow different from the cultivation of character. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can be so particular about the doctrine that you believe in that you forget that your pursuit of that doctrinal correctness has made you unloving or puritanical or just plain mean-spirited towards other people who think slightly differently. And so he said, what does it profit if someone say he has faith and not works? Can faith save him? And unless you're not sure about that, the answer is no. Okay? So there's some of the things. Read James' epistle right the way through, and that's the one point. That's the connecting point. That's the glue that holds it all together. All this talk about religion, all this talk about spirituality, words, 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 you know. No, he says, no, what you need is real life, is God impacting your real life. Let's have real living. And the gospel, how dare you talk about the gospel when you excuse yourselves and start and slander one another. Love and faith are to be expressed in a matrix of justice and mercy and truth. And so we come to this passage when he says, if you can't control your tongue, then you're not really living in the reality of God at all. We'll come back to it. God bless you.